Year 17 as always, and look at the menu for a huge hour coming up. It will include Ja Morant. We're getting up with this kid. You knew the name. Now you've seen the game. The question is he actually the best player in the country? Jay Billets will answer that in a minute, because if it isn't him, it's probably this guy, Zion. How many games does the superstar have left before he goes pro? We'll talk about that. Can they win the entire thing? And part 2 of my interview with Kobe Bryant. You'll hear selected pieces of the conversations with one of the greats of all time, who puts together one of the really genuinely fascinating conversations you will see. All that and more in this hour of Get Up. Let's jump in with some of the action from yesterday. Auburn almost gave a game away against New Mexico State. Look at this. Aggies down 2. Might have had a layup to tie it there. Instead, they kick it out for a 3. Fouled on the three-pointer is Terrell Brown. A.J. Harris, why'd you pass the ball?
Dang, I seen the points when we was down 2. I just felt like Terrell Brown was clearly wide open. He got a great shot off. He got fouled, and I was just trusting my teammate, my partner.
Honestly, I love the decision, and it leads to 3 free throws again in a 2-point game. And this is Brown, and he misses the first. He's a 78% foul shooter, by the way. Missed the first, made the second. Here's the third. The tie doesn't go. But look, out of bounds, it's Aggies' ball. They're going to get another chance. And Jay Will, look at the look that they wind up getting.
A wide open look. Hey, if you're a kid, though, you can't ask for anything better. This is what you dream about.
In the end, Auburn survives and advances to the delight of Charles Barkley, who is their most famous alum. Let's talk.
At that point, it's out of your control, and you got to trust your players, and players make plays. And if he does, make all 3 free throws or makes the 3, it's an Ali Faroukmanesh moment, and that will be remembered forever. And that's what happens in the NCAA tournament. And it just didn't work out for us this particular time.
We obviously panicked and made our share of mistakes, which could have cost us the game. But at the same time, we had made enough really good plays throughout the game against a really good team. And that's a really good 5-12 win for Auburn, because that New Mexico State team is formidable. I don't want to do it again, though.
I don't think anyone would. 2-seed Michigan State taking on 15-seed Bradley, and Michigan State struggled with Bradley. They were there to play, but there's Xavier Tillman stealing it, laying it in on the other end. Spartans going on a 10-0 run at that point, but watch this. Bradley calls a timeout, and during that, Tom Izzo very upset with freshman forward Aaron Henry getting in his face. He gets in his face once again in the huddle at this point, has to be held back by Cassius Winston. And, of course, it was because he wasn't getting back on defense. More on that in a little bit. But 2 minutes and 45 seconds to play in the game. The Spartans are up, and Henry gets it going. Michigan State wins it 76-65. Here's Izzo on the drama in the huddle.
This is one and done time, The my bads are out the window. If they're my bads because that team played better or that guy played better, if it's my bad because I decided to jog back instead of sprint back, then it is your bad, and you're going to hear about it.
All right, we're going to talk about that one in a minute. We're also going to talk about this. My goodness, Murray State and Marquette. Ja Morant, you knew the name, now you've seen the game. That was a dime. Now look at the step back, Jay Will.
Very James Harden-like.
That's who it looks like. Right there, he looks like James Harden. Yeah. And Murray State would have a 7-point lead at the half. Now, who does he look like with this pass here?
Me.
Oh, no, first that was Chris Bond. That was in time for the slam. My bad, I lost my place in the highlights. Here comes a great pass. Look at this pass.
With the left hand.
Come on.
Nice.
Come on. Ja Morant, spectacular. A triple-double.
Wow.
First in the tournament since Draymond did it 7 years ago. Murray State wins easily.
Ja, what a performance. The first triple-double in the tournament since Draymond Green in 2012. Is this the kind of game that you envision playing tonight?
I just try to come out and give it all I could tonight and just try to do whatever I could to give my team a win. And I had to help bigs on the boards, and obviously I wouldn't be able to get the triple-doubles without my teammates making shots. So the credit for this game goes to them.
He's as good as any guard that I've coached against or played against, and I've coached against and played against some outstanding ones. I mean, the triple-double was 16 assists in an NCAA tournament game. It's crazy.
It's so crazy it had never been done before. That was the most assists ever in a triple-double in the tournament. Andre Miller and Oscar Robertson had the previous record with 13, and I hope it was audible on the air, by the way, when I said, who does that remind you of? Chris Bosh said, me, which was an outstanding moment as we bring Jay Billis into the conversation. Jay, I don't know if it reminded you of yourself either, obviously, back in
on
your
the
days
opposite end?
in the 80s. But all kidding aside, because John Morant, he has this cool name, and he was this kind of person that people may have heard of as the season was going on, but people don't see a lot of Murray State basketball. So this morning, people are waking up and they're losing their minds over this kid. Just how good is John Morant?
He's Russell Westbrook. I mean, John Morant's the real deal. And you don't get a triple-double in an NCAA tournament game or even a regular season game unless you can really play. And John Morant can really play. I mean, you've already mentioned it. The last guy to get a triple-double in an NCAA tournament game was Draymond Green. The last guard to do it was Dwayne Wade at Marquette when he did it against Kentucky back in 2003. So John Morant's somebody that those of us in the weeds of the game have known for a long time. But he only averaged 12 points a game last year, and now he's a bona fide superstar that's going to be a top 3 pick in the draft. And it kind of reminds you of the decision that had to be made back in 2003, when you had Chris Bosh coming out and Dwayne Wade and LeBron James and the like, because you got Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and John Morant. And those are going to be the first 3 picks. It just depends on the order. I still think Zion's number 1. I don't think you move him aside. But it's going to be a real decision at number 2 with R.J. Barrett and John Morant.
Yeah, what would you do, Jay, between those number 2 picks potentially? Would you take R.J. Barrett ahead of John Morant, or would you do Morant ahead of Barrett?
That's a good question, Laura. I mean, right now I have R.J. Barrett ahead of John Morant, but it is really close. And just the fact that you're saying that John Morant is going to be a Russell Westbrook type player, but I think that R.J. Barrett's going to be a James Harden type player. And so the hard part with the draft is it's not always binary. It's not always an either-or thing. All these guys can be ultra successful, like the players we had in 2003 that we were just talking about. And so you can make a choice, and it's not necessarily the wrong choice. You're just trying to make the best choice for your team.
I'm having the best time watching Chris Bosh watch those highlights, by the way, of John Morant, who is just unbelievable. Jay, I want to go back to the Michigan State game. A lot of people reacted pretty strongly to Tom Izzo, who obviously was very forceful in that huddle. Should a big deal be made of the way he handled his player yesterday?
I don't necessarily think it needs to be a big deal with regard to Tom Izzo, because he's got such a long track record with how he deals with his players and how his players react to it. So you know where it's coming from with Tom Izzo. With a younger coach, I wouldn't recommend this kind of thing. I actually run a coach's development program during the summertime with my basketball camp. We spent a lot of time dealing with this. I'm not sure a younger coach without that track record, it would be seen quite the same way or accepted quite the same way. I can tell you that back when I played, that was the norm. That's exactly what happened when there were mistakes made. And the things that were said, if they were said now, would get coaches fired. And so if younger coaches are seeing this thinking that, well, I can do that too, I'd think twice about that. One, I'm not sure it's effective. I don't think it's as effective as other methods. It has worked for some of the old school coaches. They're fine with it, and their players seem to be fine with it. If their administrations are fine with it, that's okay. But I would not recommend that for younger coaches going forward.
It's really well said. Jay Billis, thank you so much. Thank you for a terrific week here. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy all the games, and we'll check back with you on Monday. Now, let me bring this back to the table here, and I would ask all of you guys who played, as you saw that moment, and Chris Bosh, I'll give it to you first, whether it was high school, college, pros, wherever it might be. When you see that, did you ever have a coach get in your face quite to that level?
Yeah.
You did?
We called that a Tuesday. That's pretty much, at least in my career, that was the norm. And look, you have to be tough. They're in like Izzo said, a one and done situation. If you lose, you go home. So yes, that's going to bring out emotion. That's going to bring out intensity. And if you've got a guy like Tom Izzo who has a proven track record, he knows what it takes. He's coached a few young fellas that are still playing in the league to this day. And if he's getting on you and he sees something that you're not doing or you're lacking in something, you should listen.
The point is, he was mad at his player. We heard it briefly in the sound there for jogging back on defense in a tournament game, a one-and-done kind of situation.
I think stature and reputation has everything to do with your ability to react like that. I think for a guy with the stature of Tom Izzo and the reputation of who he is, he can do that because you understand where it's coming from. But I agree with Jay Billis, too. If you're a coach who doesn't have that kind of stature, then you have to be, cognizant of the fact that a phone can come out and that can leak out, and those conversations can get you fired. Or if you're a high school coach, it's different. I think only certain coaches with that kind of credibility can do things like that. If you haven't earned that credibility, then there's not going to be a place in the game for you to react to kids that way.
It's credibility and personality. For example, while I could see Tom Izzo doing that and it be accepted, I could see Richard Pitino doing it and it be accepted, and he's a young coach. What ends up happening is, of course, you choose the school for the institution. But really, a lot of times in basketball and football, you choose a school because of the coach. And you know who you're signing up for. You understand how you're going to be coached. And when you go to Michigan State, yes, Tom Izzo's going to teach skill, but he stresses will and toughness and effort. And you understand that when you sign your letter of intent.
It's dangerous to just paint a broad brush over all of this because not every single young player is like this. But the new generation of players is different. So the one thing I would say is at some point this could affect recruiting. And then at that point, I think you look at some of these coaches who have maybe we're saying earned the right to go at players the way that they are. And you wonder, could they even change their coaching style?
Well, that's an interesting point because Mike Krzyzewski, when you were playing, and certainly when Jay was playing, would get in a guy's face like that. Does he get in these guys' faces like that?
I think he does, but he does it in a different way. Like, he wouldn't do it that way. I think Tom is a little bit more, has more flair in that moment because he gets passionate. Coach K gets passionate too, but I think he has a different way of articulating it. Doesn't make one right or one wrong. It's just there are different approaches in their styles.
And super quick, I only have a moment, but because I have you here, Chris Bosh, and I have not had a chance to ask you this, as you have watched Zion Williamson, who has taken the country by storm, sort of projecting him ahead to the next level, what do you think he becomes in the NBA? What do you see of him as an NBA player?
Well, I mean, I think just the natural raw athleticism and talent, he's got that. I think it's just going to be on him to develop his skill. It's going to be on him to really have that passion to really, like Jay was saying, you want to impose your will. You want to impose your will on the league and really not wait around for someone to come and help you or someone to get you out of bed in the morning and say you need to go to practice. I think for him, like Kobe was saying earlier, it's about the gym. And this is for all young people. Stay in the gym. You know, we're living in an era of popularity and everybody wants to be online. That's cool and that's great. But if you're not doing what you're supposed to do and taking care of business on that court, none of that stuff matters.
I love it. That's Chris Bosh who's with us here this morning. Let me get up and go and catch up on some other business. Get Up and Go today is brought to you by Aleve. And after last night, or Wednesday night's win, against the Celtics, Joel Embiid called himself the most unstoppable player in the league. Jalen Rose, is he right?
He's not the most unstoppable player in the league. The most unstoppable player in the league may get 50 points tonight. That's James Harden.
He has had 47 free throws in the past 4 games, though, so he is finding a way to get to the free throw line.
CB, what are you doing with Joel Embiid down low?
Trust the process.
I like it. From that same game, by the way.
Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, he's in the conversation, but he's not the most unstoppable.
Marcus Smart in that same game, by the way, got ejected for pushing Joel Embiid and has been fined $50,000. We didn't get to comment on this because we never got on yesterday. Jalen, what'd you make of all this?
I appreciate the league for reacting swiftly with a fine. I think that number is just. I just felt like if each team's fine money went to the local community and at the end of the year you see the video of yourself acting out, it'll make the player look at it different, it'll make the community look at it different, and you present a big check and give it back to the Philadelphia community where this act took place.
Maybe we'll work on that after the season. In the meantime, to college basketball as we get up and go. John Calipari says his guess is P.J. Washington will not play Saturday for Kentucky against Wofford. Jay Will, for those who don't know that, how big a loss is he?
That's a major loss. He is their best player. He's been a guy that's really grown into being the signature player for them down low. Now, the crazy thing is that they took him out of a walking boot and they put him in a real cast. You put somebody in a real cast, that gives me the interpretation that there's a little bit more there than what you're alluding to. I'm a little bit concerned.
He tried to downplay the significance of the cast, Calipari did, but I agree with you.